You're live.
Hi, everybody. This is Trish Gleason. We're here today to learn about Alzheimer's and women. And we have a special guest with us today, Dr. Michael Bagnell. Say hello, Dr. Bagnell, and I'll introduce you properly.
I guess we're supposed to say hello, Dr. Bagnell. No, not really. Hello, Ms. Gleason. Nice to be with you again.
Thank you for coming. I want to give you a little background about Dr. Bagnell, but before I do that, I want you to know that we're really in a crisis point with Alzheimer's. And I know Dr. Bagnell will agree with that. Every 65 seconds, somebody in the United States gets Alzheimer's.
That's right.
Every 65 seconds. And that's terrible news. So we need to be proactive and decide on what we need to do to stop this. And there's things we can do, which Dr. Bagnell is going to tell us about. So listen up, and he will explain it today. Right. So back to explaining a little bit, introducing Dr. Bagnell. 30 years ago, he became a chiropractic medicine, postgraduate in chiropractic neurology, which is now called neuroscience. He had the diplomate training in functional neurology. Right. It's quite long, so here it comes. Fellowship in brain injury rehabilitation, certified in neurofeedback, and he's also a national keynote speaker for many medical organizations nationwide. So we are pleased today to have Dr. Bagnell.
Thank you. Thank you. Very kind.
Is that all correct?
That is so well said, better than most. Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
Great. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and just ask you a couple questions. I'll turn it over to you, and then every once in a while, I have about 100 questions for you. So if you're at a loss of words, I know you're going to talk to us about preventative and reversal, hopefully, of Alzheimer's. Start off, if you don't mind, by just letting us know what Alzheimer's is, and then I've got some questions for you. Go ahead, Doctor.
So, and I have some great stories that will kind of help us think through in a more real way rather than statistics and numbers and biology, which can kind of bog most people down. But just to start out with, Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. And so for any of us, I'm 56, any of us in this age or a little bit older, we know that, dementia, you're losing your cognitive abilities. People will think about that with memory, but also attention can be involved with that, memory, verbal abilities as well, and concentration. So we can see a lot of different things about who we are as a person, our personality can be affected. And it's in any of us who have lived with a parent or know somebody, probably everyone watching this will know someone directly that they're related to or indirectly through a friend that their parent or friend has dealt with dementia. And probably it's Alzheimer's. There's several types of dementias, but by far and away, the most common is Alzheimer's. And so it's a very serious issue, like you mentioned. It actually kills, which really boggled me last year when I found this research, that more people die, men and women, from prostate cancer and breast cancer. More people die from Alzheimer's than those two cancers combined. So really, if you separate it out, more women will die from Alzheimer's and its complications than breast cancer. So this totally shocked me. I didn't even realize that. And then they've gone further to say that actually, if you combine all the breast cancer deaths and all the prostate cancer deaths, Alzheimer's still supersedes them. So it's a big issue. And, there's a lot of us, I'm on the very end of the baby boomers. So we're kind of coming into that time. And right now, if you're noticing any changes, would be a time where you'd want to say, I want to try to make sure I can cut that off or do things to prevent a decline of my mental capabilities as soon as possible.
Do we have more choices to prevent dementia than we do choices to be preventative for breast cancer?
Wow, I don't know. I've never heard that question before.
But it seems like we do, because you have all kinds of ideas on what to do with our brain to help us, but I don't know I've never heard of what to do to prevent breast cancer, aside from eating maybe.
Yeah, I would say that probably a linchpin between both of those worlds, cancer, whatever it might be, and brain health would probably be what you put in your mouth. Your diet, your nutritional status, your metabolic status. You can call it a lot of things. What is my diet like? What is my nutritional status? What is my metabolic health? And each one of those is a little more scientific. A layperson would say, what is my eating, my nutrition like, my diet? Another person would say, well, what is your metabolic health? A doctor might say that, or a functional medicine doctor that would look at your laboratory results and say, well, you're normal on everything, but you're kind of trending in the wrong direction here and there. So I think if I were to look at a center, a linchpin, like I said, I would say nutrition is probably going to be paramount to all these things, but there are many other factors in both, and they overlap, right? And here's another overlapping one. Toxicity in the environment, in your foods, which would be things endogenously you take in, or in the external environment, can affect your body's immune system, which could push you towards a cancer type situation. And those same chemicals in the environment and things you take in your body makes could do the same thing with your brain, push it in an abnormal direction. So there's a lot of factors. I think that would be hard pressed for me to, I could probably argue both sides of that equation.
We recently had a toxicity doctor, or specialized, whatever that is, in toxicity, and she told us that one of the worst causes of toxin in your home, believe it or not, is fabric softener. I guess it gets in your clothes and then gets in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
So you just don't, everything, you look at it, you just need to be aware.
Fabric softeners, flame retardants are in everything. You're looking around your environment. Every piece of furniture in my room here, the paint, the carpet, everything has flame retardants in it, and it's in every human. They say that there's not one human being on the planet that doesn't have these types of chemicals in their system. Not one. Wow. So it's something that we all have to deal with.
Can, aside from trying not to ingest or be around all that, can we drink a lot of water? Or, I read somewhere that if you drink a lot of juice, vegetable and fruit juice helps prevent Alzheimer's. Will that help clean your body out? I would say that yes, if you support through your eating and drinking of healthful items, you support the proper inborn liver detoxification that you already have. So our liver is a detoxifier. It already does that very, very well. If we support it by healthy juices and healthy foods and some very basic supplementation, we can really keep our own detoxification system working optimally for a long time. And that will help our brain and our immune system and everything. So the answer would be yes, it's very important. In our last interview, you mentioned that it was very important that your brain and your gut and your brain have a direct connection. How does that interact and help us prevent Alzheimer's or dementia? I'm so happy that you said brain, gut, brain, because even yesterday on Instagram, a very close friend of mine, she messaged me that she was looking into this brain-gut connection. She's a very educated person, a very successful female entrepreneur, actually. She's sold numerous dermatological clinics. She's been very successful in that. And she messaged me that I'm really looking into this gut-brain connection and anxiety, and I'd really like to pick your brain on that. And I messaged back, excellent, but remember, it's bi-directional, brain, gut, brain. Goes both ways. Which you mentioned, because so many people, which I'm so happy that they say, I've done some research, which we need to do, right? As a patient, I always tell my kids that, listen, when you're going to raise your kids, you're going to have to become a researcher. How do I raise them? What's best for them? How do I discipline them, right? So we need to become somewhat of researchers with our own health, like you're doing. Right. Yeah. And you're very good. You're a very good leader in that, which I appreciate. So yes, the brain is going to control gut motility. So whether your stomach can create its contractions in your intestinal tract and secrete different acids and things, that control comes down from the brain. And then what you break down in that gut is going to travel back up and affect the brain health. So it's bi-directional. And if a gut is really unhealthy, it will deteriorate brain function, no question. In fact, listen to this, a little more science than probably we want. And we love it. Keep it coming. We love it. The intestinal lining is like a tube, right? And it's got the muscular lining, the intima, the muscular lining, which contracts and moves food along. But it also has a basement membrane. So it's got the muscle on the inside, and it's got this basement membrane. Well, way down microscopically, the little things that link together in that basement membrane are the same kind of things in the blood-brain barrier. So when the gut becomes leaky or damaged from poor eating, infections, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, the gut becomes leaky. And get into the bloodstream, we know that the blood-brain barrier becomes leaky also. Wow. So it's very significant to understand and to try to maintain gut health. Well, let me see if I got it here. So if you don't eat right, or toxins get in your body, then your gut's not working right, and it gets porous, and some of the toxins in your gut that you're going to pass through and whatever, enter your body and kill or make some of your organs not work properly. And then, of course, your brain's not working right. And your brain won't work well either, because things that are not supposed to be in your bloodstream that get into your bloodstream can create food sensitivities, then can create allergies. Now you've activated the immune system.
Now you create, so when the immune system is active, you
Mhm.
create inflammation in the body. So sometimes people think inflammation is just, oh, I have arthritis in my hand or my shoulder, but inflammation comes from immune system that's activated. So that the inflammation then gets into your brain and you have neuroinflammation. And this can create depression, anxiety,
And
OCD.
it create, is that just the start of dementia?
It could be, it'll contribute to those kinds of problems.
Um, let's see. One of the things I wanted to ask you was about medicine. Sometimes, or oftentimes, if you have Alzheimer's or you don't have Alzheimer's, either way, and you take medications, can that bring on Alzheimer's? Can that cause you to get Alzheimer's?
Well, let me answer that with a brief example of a patient who now is under our care currently. He's a gentleman who's 58. I'm 56. He's had cognitive decline. He looks when he walks like someone that you would imagine with very small steps, kind of chopping. His wife has to bring him in. He cannot function on his own anymore. He cannot hold a job. He gets confused about the ages of his children. So he has to be under full-time care. This came on in the past few years. He's been on Alzheimer's medications for 3 years, Alzheimer's medications. He's been on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and for an early diabetes. Blood sugar's been elevated for, I think, just over 2 years. They recently have done a new scan with him, and they're determined that he does not have Alzheimer's, and he may have another condition, but he's been treated as if he had that, because unfortunately, a lot of times brain disorders, we don't look at them in the same way we do, let's say, like a heart disorder. I'm going to quote Dr. Daniel Amen. He said, when you have crushing chest pain, every cardiologist is going to do an EKG to examine your heart. But when we have crushing depression or anxiety, no one does an exam on your brain. We just say, take this, here, take that. But we can do examinations of different levels, electrical, like a brainwave assessment, EEG. We can do different other tests to determine where in the brain is something out of balance. And then like this gentleman, he had to have a specialized scan called a PET scan to see, does he really have Alzheimer's? And right now he doesn't have Alzheimer's and they're looking at another condition. So you don't want to be taking medications when it's not appropriate. And then if there's something else, if it is appropriate and we need to be on meds, we thank God that we have some medications, but we also want to be doing things, if we can, that can help the function of the brain. Perhaps instead of the trajectory of someone's life ending like this, steeply, slow that down so maybe they can have a little more time with their grandchildren, with their spouse, riding horses or hiking.
Right.
So they can still have some quality of life.
Okay, great. You know, there's a lot of signals. I think there's 12 signals of things that are causing Alzheimer's. I'm just going to quick read a few of them and see what maybe there's one of them that you want to elaborate on. The social interaction is a key to not getting Alzheimer's. What do you think about that one? Let's just go through them.
Completely. So if you're like this all day long or all night long, this is not social interaction.
Right.
Holding my phone, right? So everyone's like, yeah, I'm in bed. It's 9 o'clock. I'll be up till 1. That's not social interaction. You know what it's like. I mean, we're in the age group where we sat, we talked, we played a game, and we interacted with a human being, not with an electronic human being. So
to be preventative, you're suggesting that makes sense.
We need social interaction. Yes.
What can we do about, I think a lot of elderly people, especially, become hermits, and they need to get out because that could be when they're getting their Alzheimer's. They just.
Well, we have that wife. We help that wife find a place where she could take her husband. It's kind of like a daycare, basically. I hate to use that language, but that's what they call it. And most of the people are much older than he is, so he didn't like it. But the reality is he plays games with them. They love having him there because he's younger. They're in their 70s, 80s, 90s. And here's a guy not even 60. So not wonderful, but he gets daily interaction because he was sitting at home all day.
This is the gentleman you were talking about?
Yes, he was just watching television and just eating snacks and not good. So,
okay, you encourage everybody to do that.
Yeah, it's good to try to find a group or people. Sometimes they have these things called visiting nurses, visiting angels that can come in, they call them. It's one of the groups I know. They'll come in and visit with them for a couple of hours, depending on what you can afford. So we need those kinds of things. We need that. I mean, we're human beings. We're meant to not be alone, right?
So it's proven that that's true.
Oh,
Is that
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I read 16% of seniors are, that's it. That's all the percent of seniors that have had a cognitive exam. Did you know that, Dr. Bagnell? 16%, that's it.
It's not very many.
No. So
No.
ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, take your parents, yourself, and go get a cognitive exam. Dr. Bagnell calls it a cognoscopy.
Cognoscopy, that's right.
Now, could you explain again what a cognoscopy is?
No,
That you should never tell your doctor because they won't know what it is.
They won't know what you're talking about. You're very good. See, your memory is very good. So
Oh, good.
Dr. Dale.
Do I need a cognoscopy? Yes. I'm getting old.
You should anyway, but Dr. Dale Bredesen from the University of UCLA, I should say, he wrote a book on reversing Alzheimer's, and he's the one who coined that term, cognoscopy. So everyone knows about a colonoscopy, where you have a large instrument to check your colon, because colon cancer is a reality. So he's saying, hey, we should be checking our brain through different measurements that are now available that are non-invasive that can be done. So we're not talking about a CAT scan. We're not talking about an MRI. We're talking about different types of other evaluations. And actually on my website, a person could take a complementary memory test that we use called Cambridge Brain Science. So we run.
Well, I would love it if they would do that. What is your website? And I'm sure they'll be happy to. It's totally free, right?
Totally free. Bagnell
okay, what is that?
Yeah, BagnellBrainCenter.com. And as you scroll right down the middle of the page, you'll see a link that says test your memory. You can click on that and you'll take a simple memory test that is baseline scored, or it has a normative database, I should say, which is really quite good. You get just an idea of where you are with that one memory test. We usually run 4 memory tests, 4 concentration tests when we evaluate somebody, but at least you get an opportunity to do that.
Absolutely, we appreciate that. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, we're here today with Dr. Bagnell, just in case you just came in, talking about ways to prevent Alzheimer's for men and women.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the sunshine. They say that this, I have to read this, sorry, that of course we need vitamin D3, and vitamin D, the best and fastest way to get it is the sun, and that when you get enough vitamin D, it clears your body of amyloid plaque.
Beta amyloid plaque, which builds up in the brain.
Yes.
Well,
talk about that.
It's vitamin D is very crucial. That's correct. Vitamin D is crucial. And we're in South Florida, but we test our patients for vitamin D. And I can tell you that more than 60% of our patients are low on vitamin D in South Florida. So what does that tell you? Wow, why would people in South Florida be low on vitamin D? And I would say the answer is because they don't get the sun exposure in the proper areas, number one. What do you mean the proper areas? Your face and your arms are not the areas that activate most of the vitamin D receptors. It's your upper chest and your upper back. So sun exposure there, number one. Then
I heard a few states were going topless now. Did you hear that in the news recently? I did. 7 states are allowing topless to go. It's legal.
I'm not even going to comment.
Okay, continue on.
That's one of those ones where you say, hush, ladies.
Yeah.
So the area that you get the sun on. Number 2, that chemical, the sun hitting those receptors, has to go to 2 conversions through the kidneys and through the liver. Oh, but if your liver is a little bit junked up because you're older and not working as well, or your kidneys don't, we're older. So we're not good converters of vitamin D. So it's important, because why is vitamin D important? If we polled all your listeners, why is vitamin D important? Most people would probably say for your bones. And I would say, that's correct. What else? And then they go, I don't know what else. So here's what research says. Dr. Michael Hollick, who's one of the premier people on vitamin D research, he says your immune system is dramatically affected by vitamin D. Your bone health, we know that. Your, I mentioned immunity, bone health, psychiatric, and pain reduction. So when we have people with chronic pain, I say, we're going to check your vitamin D. Why are you going to check vitamin D? Because it's related to your chronic pain, possibly. People with depression, there's many links and research articles on vitamin D's being low and depression. Epidemiologists, I love that word, epidemiologists in Canada have said that in North America, so United States and Canada, if the vitamin D levels, because the range is 30 to 100, and most people, if they're at 30, your doctor will say, you're great, you're fine, but it's 30 to 100. These epidemiologists have found in a longitudinal study, you should be between 55 and 65. And they said, here was the conclusion. If everyone in North America United States and Canada, was between 55 and 100, it would knock out 250,000 cases of breast, colon, and prostate cancer. What? So that's the White House calling. You better answer that one. So it's important, our vitamin D levels. And the other reason vitamin D is important because every cell in the human body has a vitamin D receptor on it. So not every cell in the body has a magnesium receptor, this receptor, but vitamin D affects every single cell, and it also functions like a hormone. So there's a lot of reasons for vitamin D.
Also, if you have hormone troubles, it could be because you're low on vitamin D as well.
Well, it's one of the reasons. So yes, we want sun exposure, but we don't want to get people with too much sun exposure. You end up with cancer, like I had on my face. I had malignant melanoma, very serious. So we want to make sure their vitamin D levels are optimal, and they should get some sunlight. I would like them getting morning sunlight and afternoon sunlight, just a little bit, 10 minutes, because it helps set your circadian rhythms, because sleep is an important issue for Alzheimer's.
Oh.
So we can go to that one.
Yeah, let's go to that one, because that is one of them. Getting enough sleep. I think they say 7 hours a day. Also, the melatonin in your body prevents plaque.
That's right.
And that's all I know. So I'm turning it over to you.
So we know that if you don't sleep, actually this weekend, I'm going to be speaking, as you mentioned, nationally for the Florida group here in Naples. And I'm on a clinical sleep panel explaining to doctors the importance, so that they understand for their patients, why is sleep, everyone knows it's important, but they don't know particularly why. So it's said that if you live to 90 years of age, you're going to sleep for 36 years.
Oh.
If you accumulate that, isn't that something? 36 years of sleep if you live to 90, but hopefully you're getting good sleep. Now, I can say for myself, 56 years old, I don't sleep so great all the time. I used to have a couple of years where I would be getting up 2 to 3 times to use the restroom. It's like, what is going on here? In my early 50s, that's been resolved. Pains and aches, and my neck would get stiff, different things. I sleep very lightly, so every little sound and I hear it and I'm awake. That comes from PTSD, I believe, in my early years as a teenager and child. But aside from that, sleep is crucial. So things that can affect our sleep, our circadian clock gets offset. So we stay up too late. Again, we stay on these phones or bright lights too late. We shut off the TV at 11 o'clock and think you're going to fall asleep. Not ideal. So the light in the morning, not staring to the sun, but just getting light resets that. And then at the afternoon, sunlight. So you get, in the morning, there's a blue hue in the light. There's blue frequencies that really you pick up, wakes you up. And in the evening, there are more yellows, and they help to kind of settle down the brain, reset the clock, get that melatonin production going. And then breathing. So many people snore. They have sleep apnea. This is crucial. The gentleman that I was telling you about has had sleep apnea for years, has had a machine, and has refused to use it and it was uncomfortable, granted. But you know what? That's played a role, I believe, in his decline. So we need to be able to breathe properly, having proper sleep hygiene. Your room should be dark and cool. There shouldn't be any lights on. Don't have the phone near your bed or on your bed. God forbid, a lot of the young people put the phone right on the pillow with them. You want to move that electronic frequency stuff away from you. Don't have a router in your bedroom. Those are all bad ideas.
Well, what are some other quick ways to get vitamin D? I don't know about milk anymore.
No, definitely not. We supplement. We give patients supplement. There's liquid supplements. There's little pills. It's very inexpensive. It's a very simple way to do that. But you want to get tested or you supplement. It's a very inexpensive blood test.
Okay, let's get to another one. Juice. We talked about it briefly, but I read that fruit juice and vegetable juice, wait to hear this one, gives you a 76% reduced chance of getting Alzheimer's. I read that, and it was on the Alzheimer's.org.
So you see, that can lead people to confusion, I think, because if you read that and you go, well, I'm going to drink fruit juice, apple juice, white grape juice, they're loaded with sugar. This is not so great for us. Vegetables. Right. Remember what did I drink growing up as vegetable juice? V8 juice, didn't you? V8.
Tastes good.
Yeah, it tastes good. Loaded with sodium, not so good for you. So if you're going to juice, you want to have more vegetable-based juices than you want to have fruit. I would say 75% vegetable to 25% fruit.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, let's talk about coffee. I read that coffee. Yes. Wait, hear this one. If you drink enough coffee, which I'm not sure how much that is, will delay Alzheimer's 3 to 4 years.
Sounds good.
That's what it said on the Alzheimer's.org.
Yeah, I like
think
coffee.
That's true?
I think there is definitely, so some years ago, I was doing some research on antioxidants. Remember that one was really popular, antioxidants, everyone was into
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And what I found out in research is that one of the strongest antioxidants, the ORAC rating, the strongest antioxidant is coffee. I couldn't believe it. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Everyone's like, I was railing against coffee. Don't drink too much coffee. And then I read that and I said, drink as much as you want. But here's the point of that. Here's the better takeaway. The more moderate view is we don't want to drink too much coffee.
Okay.
So how much is too much? I would say on an average, 1 to 2 cups might be helpful for people. But then what does someone put in it? Do they put sugar in it? Do they put Splenda, God forbid? Do they put equal, even worse? All those additive things. I mean, a little bit of stevia or some of these natural sweeteners might be better. I use MCT oil, which is like a coconut-based oil in my coffee a little bit. It helps with brain health. So I do that in the morning. What kind of creamers, all these creamers, not so good to put in. So some coffee, like Bulletproof coffee, I'll give them a little plug, is a good coffee. And using those supplements helps the brain function. And there is a doctor I know out of Harvard, I won't mention his name, he swears by 5 cups of coffee a day. I think that's probably a little bit much. You could really get jacked up on coffee. And if you're drinking, I remember one gal who was a patient of ours, and we go through an entire health history, and she was a little bit overweight and working on some brain health issues. And we asked, how's her digestion? My digestion is perfectly normal. Okay, how many cups of coffee do you drink a day? I have Cuban coffee shots. She said, okay, so how many do you have? 10. I said, you have 10 shots a day? Yes. I said, if you didn't have those, would you go to the bathroom regularly? No. So
she's dehydrated.
She's not regular. That means she's building up toxicity. She's taking in way too much coffee, and Cuban coffee, shots loaded with sugar, all a bad idea. So when someone says coffee's good for your brain, we need to help them walk through the appropriate way to dose it.
Okay, be careful. Okay, here's another one. Flu shot. In our Hush Ladies group, which about 800 ladies put their secrets in there, things that they do in life. I don't know if you probably never looked in there because they're all women.
I don't.
But we put our secrets that we do in our life, and health secrets, beauty secrets. And one of them was, we were talking about flu shots. Who's getting the flu shot, who's not. Some doctors replied, some didn't. And a lot of people said they didn't want the flu shot, but on the Alzheimers.org website, it actually says getting the flu shot has proven, or they didn't say the word proven, but indicates, or they think that it helps prevent Alzheimer's. What do you think about the flu shot?
I would say that if your immune system ends up really overwhelmed by the flu, the immune system, as I mentioned earlier, creates inflammation. That inflammation can affect your brain. So if you're an older person, let's even start with, it's not old now that I'm 56, 60 and up, and you have a very poor immune system, that you get sick a lot, you've had maybe hepatitis C, or you've had a lot of problems with your immune system, you might want to consult. So I'm not a personal fan of it. I don't get it. I've never gotten it. My stepfather, who's 86, is on 25 medications. He's 86. He's doing really well. He takes so many medications. He gets it every year. Right. So here's the thing. I can't tell anyone, I tell you what I do. And I would say, if you have a very compromised immune system, I think you should consult with your doctor about that. If you have a pretty healthy immune system and you're really concerned and you take care of your eating and your lifestyle, you don't smoke, you're a very moderate drinker, not much sugar intake, you get sleep well, so you're doing all the proper things, you may want to consider that, I'm not going to get that. Now, what's another thing? What's your exposure level? If I'm going to go to South Central Africa for work among medical communities, I'm going to probably do every immunization necessary. Right. As an example. Right. So your exposure level, if you're working in the hospital and you're among a lot of people. So I think each person can kind of help with a doctor make the proper decision. I'm just not a fan for myself. And I certainly don't think it should be a blanket for everyone. Everyone get the flu shot. Okay. I don't agree with that.
Okay. And again, we're talking today with Dr. Bagnell about ways to prevent proactive prevention of Alzheimer's.
That's right.
Because every 65 seconds, as I mentioned, somebody in the United States is getting Alzheimer's, and that's pretty bad. There's 27 million people worldwide with Alzheimer's, and they expect by the year 2050, there's going to be 14 million. Oh, excuse me, 1 trillion. 1 trillion, yeah. Right. So that's pretty bad. Okay, let's talk about omega-3 and fish. So fish, walnuts, eggs, and flaxseed. And after I read that, I ran to the refrigerator and got my flaxseed out and made a shake because, flaxseed doesn't taste the greatest. But anyway,
Love
Let's
it.
talk about omega-3.
Yeah, very important for brain health, hormone health, immune system, gut balancing. We know that the proper doses of omegas can help people with depression and psychiatric illnesses. So that's a very important area. We know that the proper omega-3 intake helps to balance, reduce inflammation throughout the whole body. We know that krill oil, which is another type, helps to reduce inflammation in joints. So if someone says to me, I use krill oil, that's great, but I want to make sure they're on omega-3s. If someone's on omega-3s and they have arthritis, I want to make sure I get them on krill oil. So you may want to combine, depending on what you're dealing with. I only take omega-3s every night. I take about 2 grams a night. That's 2,000.
Why at night? Is there a reason it's at night?
Yeah, I like my body is cooler at night. It digests better for me. I don't burp it up. I don't like that taste. Some people have that same issue. So I keep them in the refrigerator and I take them at night. And so in the hot climate of South Florida, oils can get rancid in the body. So we want to stay with you taking them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And if things go rancid in the body, you're getting a negative effect rather than a positive effect.
So if you're working out or going on a hike or whatever, maybe you shouldn't take vitamins, and especially the kind that are liquid before you go?
Only omega-3s. I'm specifically talking about those I take at night. I take other vitamins through the day.
Okay. Take omegas.
Omega-3s create the membranes in the brain. So if you get down to the microscopic level, the omega-3s are in the membrane, and they make membranes of nerve cells very flexible. So if you have a very rigid membrane, that's not so good. Then things can't get in. If you have a flexible membrane, then things can get into the neurons and it can be much healthier. And our diet is composed mostly of omega-6s. You say, how can that be? So grasses that the cattle eat and seeds, excuse me, not grasses, seeds, and corn and soy, that's what they feed most of our animal products. They're gonna build up omega-6s in their tissues. We're gonna eat that, and then we end up having more and more problems with that.
So vegetarians wouldn't have much omega-6 because they don't eat meat.
Well, that's correct. They should have more omega-3s in their system because they're more of a vegan vegetarian diet. That's correct. But they still need to supplement because it's very hard to get a certain type of the omega, which is DHA. It's very difficult to get that even through a vegan vegetarian lifestyle, but that's going way down a specific path.
We'll talk about that another day.
Yeah.
So just a couple more. Meditation, they say on the Alzheimer's website, alzheimers.org, meditation helps prevent Alzheimer's.
I would agree. Yes, meditation is very good or mindfulness, calming the brain down. So we do an electrical brain map on people, and then we can specifically target. So we can now do remote neurofeedback. So I could have gotten.
How does that work?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you. So I could have gotten a brain map on you, okay, either where you are or had you come to our office, then send you back with a little unit that fits on your head. And I program into the computer exactly based on your brain map, how we need to train your brain. And you do this, it almost seems like meditation, but you do it off of an app with a piece of headset that fits on your head very comfortably. And we can help you train certain areas like targets in your brain. And we can train your brain back to a better, more optimal level. So we can do remote neurofeedback with people, and that's available through our office.
So let's make sure we got this straight. You take a brain scan or brain test. Is that a cognoscopy?
Well, we do a brain map.
Brain map. Okay, you take a brain map, you take the data back to your office, you find out where I'm running short.
Correct.
If there is anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is. And you find out what's not working up to par. Then you talk to me about things I can do to get it better, to working better.
Yes. Well, we don't talk to you about it, but we actually send you home with a unit, and every day you'll log onto your phone and you'll train for 15 to 20 minutes. You'll train your brain set by parameters through the internet that I set on your phone, through an app, and you'll train specifically. So meditation is excellent, but we're talking about targeted meditation.
Oh, I see. So now a lot of these people are maybe somewhere in the world, not even anywhere near Florida. A lot of them are in Florida or nationwide. What kind of a doctor, I know you do this, but other people may want to use a doctor near them. They would just look for what kind of a doctor to do what you do.
A functional neurologist. Yeah, okay. They would Google functional neurology.
Well, actually, they could just email you and you can refer them. That's the best way.
Easy. And then we can refer them to somebody in their area.
So we know your website. What's your email address?
Same as the website, bagnellbraincenter@gmail.com. bagnellbraincenter@gmail.com.
Well,
want to
I
mention
know
to
I have bombarded you with questions, and I'm sorry about that. I
No,
just
I
want
love
to
it.
get them all answered.
Let me mention to you one particular thing that I was thinking is really quite important that's not going to be on the list. And that is that head impacts, banging your head, what we might call a concussion, or what a lot of people say, I've never had a concussion, but
Right.
most of us have hit our head. So are a number one contributor to dementia.
Oh. Okay,
So-
now I did read, it said, is this true? That if you hit your head and you're knocked out for more than 24 hours, does that make a difference, or just any head trauma?
Any.
Any. Oh, you're kidding. We're all in trouble then, because everybody fell and hit their head.
Yeah, I mean, we've had head impacts. Some of them are subconcussive. So you don't have to be knocked out to have it. So we have a woman this past week. She's a mom of 3. We've been treating two of her kids for some other brain-based conditions. She called us crying. She was sitting on her bar stool. She's an entrepreneurial mom, actually, just like a lot of the ladies here. She's sitting on one of her legs crossed on her bar stool. She goes to get up. Her foot gets caught. She falls off the bar stool and hits her head on the counter. Her husband takes her to the hospital. She has a concussion. We started treating her. She just fell off the bar stool and just hit her head on the cabinet. We have another young lady we've been treating for 2 weeks, a soccer player, high school senior, national caliber athlete here. She's been treated with a #1 concussion clinic in Broward County. She had some improvement, but she's still having a problem. So her mom drives her down. We've been working with her. She's a soccer player. She's had 2 concussions in a year. So they're more common than people think. And you don't really know until sometimes you get evaluated through a brain map or these ways, because we know that one head injury, one concussion can double your risk of Alzheimer's or dementia.
Oh my gosh.
So it's important. It's important. And the reason I bring it out is because most people think, I haven't had a concussion. I never got knocked out. I never played football. She fell off the bar stool in her house. I fell in the kitchen some years ago mopping. Mopping, I tell all men, don't mop. But don't let your wife mop. Just get someone else to mop. Mopping is dangerous.
Yes. Oh, that's frightening. Right?
There's
That's
hope.
frightening.
There's hope, though.
But if you get a concussion, there's nothing we can do about it, can we? Or, well, I guess we could go try to train our brain to get new brain waves, like you mentioned in our last meeting.
We know exactly how the best ways to rehab people's brains after concussion.
Okay, so is there a certain time limit? Should they do it right away, or after you have a concussion, can you go a few years later and get some help?
You can, but you should go as soon as possible so you don't end up compensating for that damage, then having other problems, and then you start seeking out help. If you hit your head or you suspect that you've had a concussion, it's always wise to get a cognoscopy or a brain evaluation with a functional neurologist or with someone who does neurofeedback, and they can evaluate your brain.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Well, I know we have talked about so many different things, and our goal today was to help everybody really thoroughly understand some ways that you can prevent Alzheimer's, because we don't want it. I would like to ask Dr. Bagnell, number 1, before we go, talk a little bit about the dolphins, and number 2, before we go, corner you to get you to come back, because I want to drill into everybody's minds the triggers to look for Alzheimer's, because early detection is helpful. Is that true?
Yes.
It's crucial. Crucial. So we know what the triggers are. Dr. Bagnell does, and of course I did my homework, but he can elaborate to what to do once you get those triggers, some ideas on what we can do at home even, correct? Do you mind coming back and talking about that more specifically? Oh, we really appreciate it. Yeah. We really appreciate it, because I believe the more people that watch this, if you share it, then the word is going to spread. And that is how we can help others.
So let's chat about
now dolphin time. Tell us about the dolphins.
Yes, so this is so exciting. So we have partnered with a group that has dolphin habitats, and we're in South Florida. So this one is in the Keys. And what we found is that many people have heard of like working with animals in the hospital, service dogs, where they have therapy dogs. People know about that. I even heard about a therapy peacock, which I don't know how that works. But anyway, we've partnered with these groups that have dolphin habitats. And what we've done is we put together a brain camp with the dolphins. So what we do, we have all kinds of people will come in. This first camp is completely booked out, coming up in November. And we have adults and young people coming in with a variety of different conditions with their brain and emotions and health. And what we're doing is doing we're doing brain evaluations first, then we're doing brain training on land. Then they have a session with the dolphins. We have very unique neuroscience games in the water with the dolphins, and they're back on land, and they do this 6 sessions back and forth. It's going to be a remarkable opportunity for our participants. And then we have future camps coming up early next year. We're organizing the dates right away. We're already involved in that today, as a matter of fact. I was meeting with our partners, and we're developing our exercises even more. So this is going to be a chance for people's brains to really have an opportunity to heal, working with the dolphins, working with us and my team in South Florida in the Keys, coming up very soon.
So let me make sure I'm clear. So the purpose of the dolphin interaction with the people is for people who have an issue with their brain, or it's just for anybody that wants to help to grow new brain waves and
yeah, it's really, that's a good question, because like, who would benefit from that? So you could have young people that might be dealing with anxiety, depression. You could have people in any age group dealing with PTSD. So we have some former military that are interested in joining us. But we know that you don't have to be just in the military to suffer PTSD. Divorce, loss of a loved one, major changes in life could contribute to PTSD.
Child abuse, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Then there's people that have had concussions. We have some people reaching out to us from Europe, physical or brain disabilities, some of the people that we've worked with. You can be someone who says, I'm pretty healthy. We're going to measure your brain and we could get you in there, because being with the dolphins is very unique in that, number one, you're out in the water. That's number one. Okay. So your brain and your body are in a different environment, and it changes the way your brain is working just by being in the water. You're not standing on dry ground. And I won't get into the details of that, but my son, Zach, who works on our team, who did some of the training with us here, because he's going to help lead that. He said, Dad, when I swam out into the middle lagoon, the trainers have him swim out and the dolphins towed him back in by holding the dorsal fin. He said, I didn't really want to swim out there. I felt a little apprehensive. And I felt, actually, when I did it the first time, I felt that same way. It's a contained lagoon, but I was like, I grew up with Jaws. I feel a little off. It was the strangest thing. But here's what's interesting. You swim out there, you're a little apprehensive. The dolphins are so disarming to you. You feel so calm, and they tow you back in. Here's what happens though in the brain. We have an area called the amygdala, which is a threat response. It picks up and it makes us more vigilant to things that might be a threat to us. It's really overactive in a lot of us, from PTSD, from phobias. So just the act of swimming out there, you're actually down regulating activity in that part of your brain. And then repeated actions like that help to decrease the effect of PTSD on the brain. So you see how marvelous these simple, seemingly game type things really have a profound effect on people, which touches their heart, touches their brain, and can alter you as a person. We've heard some really interesting stories.
So subconsciously in your brain, it teaches you to not be so apprehensive and guarded, or
yeah, it calms down an area that's overactive potentially with people who've been under a lot of stress. It just lets all that down.
Like I know some people, I'm not mentioning any names, of course, that, like you're interacting with them and all of a sudden they'll get argumentative, they're real nice, and then they change their personality because they feel defensive.
Yes.
Maybe they had PTSD, and do you think that could be true? People who change their moods quickly?
Yes, it can be definitely related to that. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. I'm glad you explained it more thoroughly, because we'll keep an eye out on the news. You'll be on the news, I'm certain about that.
Sure.
And I'm sure you've got links on your website.
Yes, we do, on Instagram at Bagnell Brain Center, on Facebook, everywhere you can find it. And we have lots of things already up there about the camp. Okay,
the one last note I had. I know I live in Gainesville, Florida, near the University of Florida, and they have a research area for Alzheimer's and dementia. And I haven't heard of any, but do you know of any new discoveries just recently about dementia, or, like within the last year or two?
Yeah, I mean, there's numerous types of therapies that have a probability of helping people that are already on the decline. But, more than the newer discoveries, the research that has shown us one of the most effective things is you have to get the blood sugar under control. The other things are very important. We do some interesting therapies that are pretty groundbreaking. We do tongue stimulation. So why would you stimulate the tongue? Because stimulating the tongue while we're doing some of the other therapies goes right into the brainstem and helps create the proper brain chemistry and makes someone more alert and helps memory centers in the brain. Isn't that remarkable? So, there are some really unique applications. Blood sugar control is one of the biggest problems when it comes to brain decline. So if people started to do that on their own, they would already start going in the right direction.
Right. And that was one of the 12. I just didn't get to it. keep your BMI level good and low sugar.
Right.
Okay, so that's great news. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay. Thank you so
Have
much.
a great day.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye.